For more than a decade, David Hyde Pierce was a familiar face in millions of homes. As Dr. Niles Crane on the hit sitcom Frasier, he became a television icon, witty, neurotic, and endlessly endearing. His performances earned him 4 Emmy Awards, a legion of devoted fans, and a place in the pantheon of great TV actors. But then, almost as suddenly as he had arrived, David Hyde Pierce seemed to disappear. The man who once graced red carpets, late-night talk shows, and Broadway stages faded from the public eye, leaving fans to wonder, why did David Hyde Pierce vanish from the spotlight? To understand the mystery, you have to start with the man himself. Born in Saratoga Springs, New York in 1959, Pierce was drawn to the arts from an early age. He studied classical piano before turning to acting, honing his craft at Yale University. His early career was marked by a series of small but memorable roles on stage and screen, but it was Frasier that changed everything. Cast as the younger brother of Kelsey Grammer's Frasier Crane, Pierce brought a unique blend of physical comedy, razor-sharp timing, and emotional depth to the role. Audiences fell in love with Niles, and critics hailed Pierce as one of the finest comedic actors of his generation. But fame, as Pierce would later admit, was never his goal. Unlike many of his peers, he shied away from the trappings of celebrity. He rarely gave interviews, avoided Hollywood parties, and preferred the quiet of his home to the glare of the spotlight. Even at the height of Frasier's success, Pierce was known for his humility and his reluctance to court attention. He once joked that he was the only person in Los Angeles who didn't want to be famous. For Pierce, acting was about the work, not the recognition. When Frasier ended in 2004 after 11 seasons, Pierce faced a crossroads. He could have leveraged his fame into a string of high-profile roles, but instead, he chose a different path. He returned to the theater, his first love, taking on challenging roles in both classic and contemporary plays. His performance in the Broadway revival of Curtains earned him a Tony Award, and he quickly became one of the most respected stage actors of his generation. But even as he racked up accolades, Pierce remained elusive, rarely appearing in movies or television, and keeping his personal life fiercely private. This retreat from the public eye only fueled speculation. Was he tired of Hollywood? Had he grown disillusioned with the industry? Was there something more going on behind the scenes? Rumors swirled about health issues, creative burnout, or even a secret desire to leave acting altogether. But those who knew Pierce best insisted that the truth was far simpler. He was a man who valued his privacy, his integrity, and his craft above all else. Yet, the world of entertainment is not kind to those who step away. In an industry obsessed with youth, novelty, and constant reinvention, absence is often mistaken for irrelevance. As the years passed, Pierce's name faded from the headlines. New stars emerged, new shows captured the public's imagination, and the era of Frasier became a distant memory. For many fans, the question remained, why would someone at the peak of their career choose to walk away? The answer, as it turns out, is a story of quiet courage and unwavering conviction. David Hyde Pierce did not vanish because he was forced out or because he had nothing left to give. He vanished because he understood something that few in Hollywood ever do, that true fulfillment comes not from fame, but from living life on your own terms. In a world that rewards visibility above all else, Pierce chose the harder path, the path of authenticity, of purpose, and of self-respect. But even as he stepped back from the spotlight, Pierce's influence endured. His work on Frasier continued to inspire a new generation of actors and comedians. His advocacy for Alzheimer's research, inspired by his own family's struggles, brought hope and awareness to millions. And his quiet presence, far from being a sign of retreat, became a powerful statement in its own right. A reminder that sometimes the bravest thing you can do is simply to be yourself. To truly understand why David Hyde Pierce chose to step away from the relentless glare of fame, you have to look at the world he inhabited during his rise. The 1990s and early 2000s were a golden age for television, but they were also a time of intense scrutiny for anyone in the public eye. The success of Frasier brought Pierce not just acclaim, but a level of attention that could be both exhilarating and exhausting. Every move was watched, every word dissected, and every personal detail became fodder for tabloids and gossip columns. For someone as private and introspective as Pierce, the constant surveillance was a double-edged sword. Unlike many of his contemporaries, Pierce never seemed comfortable with the machinery of celebrity. He rarely appeared at Hollywood parties, shunned the red carpet whenever possible, and was known for slipping out of industry events early. While his co-stars might bask in the limelight, Pierce was more likely to be found backstage, quietly preparing for his next scene or chatting with crew members. He valued the camaraderie of the set, the discipline of rehearsal, and the satisfaction of a job well done far more than the fleeting thrill of public adulation. This aversion to fame was not just a quirk of personality. It was a conscious choice. Pierce understood the dangers of losing oneself in the persona that fame creates. He once remarked in an interview that, "The more people know about you, the less they believe in the characters you play." For an actor whose craft depended on transformation and subtlety, the cult of celebrity was a threat to his very identity. By keeping his private life private, Pierce protected not just himself but the integrity of his work. After Frasier ended, Pierce's decision to return to the theater was both a homecoming and a statement of intent. The stage offered a kind of purity that Hollywood could not. There were no paparazzi, no endless press junkets, no pressure to maintain a public persona. Instead, there was the thrill of live performance, the challenge of complex roles, and the joy of collaboration with other artists. Pierce thrived in this environment, earning rave reviews for his performances in productions like Spamalot, Vanya and Sonia and Masha and Spike. And Hello, Dolly! His Tony Award for Curtains was a crowning achievement, but it was the work itself that mattered most to him. Yet, even as he found fulfillment on stage, Pierce's absence from film and television became more pronounced. Offers continued to come in, guest spots, sitcom pilots, even leading roles in major movies. But he turned down most of them. When he did appear on screen, it was often in projects that aligned with his values or challenged him artistically. He lent his voice to animated films, took on supporting roles in indie dramas, and made occasional guest appearances on shows like The Good Wife. But the days of being a household name were behind him, and that seemed to suit him just fine. Of course, stepping away from the spotlight came with its own set of challenges. In an industry that prizes visibility, Pierce's low profile sometimes led to speculation about his health, his relationships, or his future plans. Rumors circulated about everything from secret illnesses to behind-the-scenes feuds, but those who knew him best dismissed such talk as nonsense. Pierce was simply living life on his own terms, pursuing the projects that mattered to him and ignoring the rest. One of the most significant aspects of Pierce's post-Frasier life has been his advocacy work. Deeply affected by his grandfather's battle with Alzheimer's disease, Pierce became a passionate supporter of Alzheimer's research and awareness. He served on the board of the Alzheimer's Association, testified before Congress, and used his platform to raise millions for research and support services. For Pierce, this work was not just a cause. It was a calling, a way to use his fame for something larger than himself. Through it all, Pierce remained grounded by his relationships. In 2008, he married his longtime partner, Brian Hargrove, in a quiet ceremony that reflected his preference for privacy and authenticity. Their partnership, built on mutual respect and shared values, became a source of strength and stability in a world that often seemed chaotic and unpredictable. As the years passed, David Hyde Pierce's absence from mainstream television and film became more than just a career choice. It became a defining feature of his public persona. Fans who had grown up watching him as Niles Crane found themselves searching for glimpses of him in the media, only to discover that he had become almost invisible. In an age when celebrities document every moment of their lives on social media, Pierce's silence was striking. He had no official Instagram, rarely tweeted, and gave interviews only when he had something meaningful to say. For many, this only deepened the mystery. What was he doing, and why had he chosen such a different path from his peers? The answer, in many ways, lies in Pierce's deep commitment to the craft of acting itself. For him, the work was always about more than just fame or fortune. He once described acting as a way of exploring what it means to be human, a process that required vulnerability, empathy, and a willingness to step outside oneself. The relentless self-promotion that defines modern celebrity culture was, for Pierce, a distraction from the real work. He preferred the rehearsal room to the red carpet, the camaraderie of fellow actors to the adulation of fans. This dedication to craft led Pierce to some of the most challenging and rewarding roles of his career. On Broadway, he tackled everything from musical comedy to Chekhovian drama, earning critical acclaim for his versatility and depth. He directed plays, mentored young actors, and became a respected figure in the theater community. His performances were marked by a quiet intensity, a sense of purpose that set him apart from more flamboyant stars. Audiences who saw him on stage often remarked on his ability to disappear into a role, to make even the most familiar characters feel fresh and alive. But while the theater offered Pierce a refuge from the pressures of Hollywood, it also demanded sacrifices. The grueling schedule of live performance left little time for other pursuits, and the financial rewards were modest compared to the riches of television and film. Yet, for Pierce, the trade-off was worth it. He found joy in the immediacy of live audiences, the challenge of new material, and the sense of community that came from working with like-minded artists. In many ways, his retreat from the spotlight was not a withdrawal, but a return to the values and passions that had drawn him to acting in the first place. Pierce's decision to step back also reflected a broader shift in his priorities. As he entered his 50s and 60s, he became more selective about the projects he took on, choosing roles that resonated with him personally or offered a chance to make a difference. He became increasingly involved in advocacy, lending his voice to causes ranging from LGBTQ rights to arts education. His work with the Alzheimer's Association continued to be a central focus, and he often spoke movingly about the impact of the disease on his family and the urgent need for research and support. Despite his low profile, Pierce's influence remained strong. Younger actors cited him as an inspiration, and his performances continued to be studied in acting classes and workshops. The enduring popularity of Frasier, which found new life on streaming platforms, introduced him to a new generation of fans. Reruns of the show became a comfort for viewers during difficult times, and Pierce's portrayal of Niles Crane was often singled out as a highlight. Even in absence, his legacy endured. Of course, the decision to step away from the spotlight was not without its challenges. In a culture that equates visibility with relevance, Pierce sometimes faced questions about whether he had been forgotten or left behind. But those who knew him best understood that his absence was a choice, not a consequence. He had built a life that was rich in meaning, grounded in relationships, and guided by a sense of purpose that transcended the fleeting rewards of fame. In the end, David Hyde Pierce's vanishing act was less about escape and more about evolution. He had grown beyond the need for constant validation, finding fulfillment in the work itself and in the causes that mattered most to him. For fans, his story is a reminder that sometimes the greatest acts of courage are the quietest ones. The decision to step back, to listen, and to live life on your own terms. The world of entertainment is often unforgiving to those who choose to step away, but David Hyde Pierce's journey is a testament to the power of self-determination. While many actors chase the next big role or the next headline, Pierce found contentment in a quieter, more intentional life. His decision to vanish from the spotlight was not a retreat, but a conscious act of self-preservation. A way to protect his creativity, his relationships, and his sense of self from the relentless demands of fame. This approach was especially evident in the way Pierce navigated his personal life. For years, he kept his relationship with Brian Hargrove private, choosing to share their story only when it felt right. When the couple married in 2008, it was a quiet, intimate affair, far removed from the spectacle of celebrity weddings. Pierce's openness about his sexuality when it finally came was marked by the same thoughtfulness and grace that defined his career. He became an advocate for LGBTQ rights, using his platform to support marriage equality and to encourage others to live authentically. Pierce's advocacy extended beyond his own community. He became a passionate supporter of arts education, speaking out about the importance of creativity in schools and the need for public funding for the arts. He mentored young actors, directed plays, and participated in benefit performances for causes ranging from AIDS research to disaster relief. In every endeavor, he brought the same dedication and humility that had made him a beloved figure on stage and screen. Yet, even as he embraced these new roles, Pierce never lost sight of his roots. He continued to return to the theater, taking on challenging parts that pushed him as an artist. His performances in productions like Vanya and Sonia and Masha and Spike and Hello, Dolly were hailed as triumphs, earning him new fans and critical acclaim. But for Pierce, the real reward was the work itself, the chance to collaborate with talented artists, to explore new ideas, and to connect with audiences in a meaningful way. The contrast between Pierce's public and private lives became even more pronounced as the years went on. While his peers courted publicity and chased the next big project, Pierce cultivated a life that was rich in meaning but free from the pressures of constant attention. He traveled, spent time with family and friends, and pursued interests outside of acting. He read voraciously, played piano, and enjoyed the simple pleasures of everyday life. For Pierce, happiness was found not in the spotlight, but in the spaces between. This philosophy was put to the test as the entertainment industry underwent seismic changes. The rise of social media, the explosion of streaming platforms, and the relentless pace of celebrity culture made it harder than ever to maintain privacy. Yet, Pierce remained steadfast in his commitment to living life on his own terms. He declined offers to join social media, resisted the urge to overshare, and focused instead on the things that brought him joy and fulfillment. For fans, Pierce's absence was bittersweet. Many longed to see him return to television or film to reprise his role as Niles Crane or to take on new challenges. Rumors of a Frasier reboot sparked excitement, but Pierce approached the idea with caution, insisting that any return would have to be true to the spirit of the original and meaningful for the characters. He was not interested in nostalgia for its own sake, but in the possibility of telling new stories that resonated with audiences today. In a world that often equates visibility with success, David Hyde Pierce's journey is a powerful reminder that there are many ways to live a meaningful life. His decision to vanish from the spotlight was not an act of defeat, but a declaration of independence, a refusal to be defined by the expectations of others. Through his work, his advocacy, and his example, Pierce has shown that true fulfillment comes not from fame, but from authenticity, purpose, and the courage to follow your own path. As David Hyde Pierce's absence from the mainstream grew more pronounced, the entertainment world continued to evolve without him. New stars emerged, new shows captured the public's imagination, and the relentless churn of pop culture moved forward. Yet, for those who paid attention, Pierce's influence was still quietly felt. His performances on Frasier remained a gold standard for comedic acting, studied by aspiring performers and cherished by fans who found comfort in the show's wit and warmth. The character of Niles Crane, with his neurotic charm and impeccable timing, became a touchstone for anyone who appreciated the art of subtle, intelligent comedy. But Pierce's legacy extended far beyond a single role. His work in theater, his advocacy for Alzheimer's research, and his commitment to living authentically all contributed to a portrait of a man who valued substance over spectacle. In an era when celebrity often means constant exposure, Pierce's decision to step back was a radical act. He showed that it was possible to have a meaningful career without sacrificing your privacy, your values, or your peace of mind. This approach resonated with many in the industry, especially younger actors who faced the pressures of social media and the 24-hour news cycle. Pierce became a quiet role model for those who wanted to pursue their craft without losing themselves in the process. He mentored up and coming performers, offering advice not just on acting, but on navigating the pitfalls of fame. His message was simple but profound: focus on the work, stay true to yourself, and don't be afraid to walk away when the cost becomes too high. Pierce's advocacy work also continued to make a difference. His efforts on behalf of the Alzheimer's Association helped raise millions for research and support services, and his testimony before Congress brought national attention to the challenges faced by families affected by the disease. He spoke movingly about his own experiences, using his platform to give voice to those who often felt invisible. For Pierce, this work was not a side project, but a central part of his life, a way to turn personal pain into public good. Despite his low profile, Pierce occasionally returned to the public eye for projects that mattered to him. He took on roles in independent films, lent his voice to animated features, and made guest appearances on television shows that aligned with his interests. Each time his performances were met with critical acclaim, a reminder of his enduring talent and versatility. But these appearances were the exception, not the rule. For the most part, Pierce remained content to let others take center stage. The rumors of a Frasier reboot brought Pierce back into the headlines, if only briefly. Fans speculated about whether he would reprise his role as Niles and what a new version of the show might look like. Pierce responded with characteristic thoughtfulness, expressing interest in the project but insisting that any revival would need to honor the original's spirit and offer something new. He was wary of nostalgia for its own sake, preferring to focus on stories that had real meaning and relevance. Through it all, Pierce's commitment to authenticity never wavered. He continued to live quietly, valuing his relationships, his health, and his creative freedom above the fleeting rewards of fame. He traveled, read, played music, and enjoyed the company of friends and family. For Pierce, happiness was found in the everyday moments, the laughter of loved ones, the satisfaction of a job well done, the peace that comes from knowing you are living life on your own terms. As the years went by, the question of why David Hyde Pierce vanished from the spotlight became less about mystery and more about meaning. He had not disappeared out of necessity, but out of choice, a choice to prioritize what mattered most, to protect his well-being, and to pursue a life of purpose and integrity. In doing so, he offered a powerful example for anyone struggling to balance ambition with authenticity. In the end, the story of David Hyde Pierce is not one of disappearance, but of transformation. While the world may have wondered why he stepped away from the spotlight, those who truly understood his journey saw a man who chose fulfillment over fame, substance over spectacle, and authenticity over applause. His decision to vanish was not an act of retreat, but a declaration of independence, a refusal to be defined by the expectations of an industry that often values visibility above all else. As the years have passed, Pierce's absence has only deepened the appreciation for his work. Reruns of Frasier continue to delight audiences, introducing new generations to the brilliance of Niles Crane and the ensemble cast that made the show a classic. Theatergoers still speak in hushed tones about his performances on Broadway, recalling the subtlety, intelligence, and heart he brought to every role. His advocacy for Alzheimer's research has left a lasting impact, raising awareness and funds for a cause that touches millions of lives. And his quiet support for LGBTQ+ rights has helped pave the way for greater acceptance and understanding in the entertainment industry and beyond. But perhaps the most enduring legacy of David Hyde Pierce is the example he set for living a life of purpose. In a world that often confuses attention with achievement, Pierce showed that it is possible to make a difference without being constantly in the public eye. He demonstrated that true success is measured not by the number of headlines you generate, but by the lives you touch, the values you uphold, and the integrity with which you live. For fans, Pierce's story is both inspiring and reassuring. It is a reminder that it's okay to step back, to say no, to choose a path that feels right for you, even if it means disappointing others or defying expectations. His journey encourages us to seek meaning in our own lives, to prioritize our well-being, and to remember that happiness is often found in the quiet moments, far from the noise and chaos of the spotlight. As the entertainment industry continues to evolve, the lessons of David Hyde Pierce's career become ever more relevant. The pressures of fame are greater than ever, with social media amplifying every success and every misstep. The temptation to chase relevance, to stay in the public eye at any cost, can be overwhelming, but Pierce's example offers a different way, a way grounded in self-awareness, humility, and a deep respect for the craft of acting. In recent years, there have been occasional hints that Pierce might return to the screen, whether in a Frasier reboot or a new project that excites his creative spirit. Each time, the news is met with excitement and anticipation, a testament to the affection and respect he commands. But whether or not he chooses to step back into the limelight, his legacy is secure. He has already given the world more than enough, through his performances, his advocacy, and his unwavering commitment to living authentically. For those who still wonder why David Hyde Pierce vanished from the spotlight, the answer is both simple and profound. He chose to live life on his own terms, to follow his passions, and to make a difference in ways that mattered to him. He understood that fame is fleeting, but integrity endures. And in making that choice, he became not just a great actor, but a role model for anyone seeking to find their own path in a world that so often demands conformity. As the curtain falls on this chapter of his life, David Hyde Pierce stands as a quiet beacon of hope, a reminder that it is possible to succeed without losing yourself, to make an impact without making a spectacle, and to find happiness not in the applause of strangers, but in the love and respect of those who matter most. His story is not one of vanishing, but of becoming the person he was always meant to be, and inspiring others to do the same.